Play a Role is a proud affiliate of Epoch's 3D Magnetic Dungeon Tiles Kickstarter. Epoch is making absolutely incredible magnetic tiles that you can snap together and make a battle map in mere seconds. They've been incredibly kind to my channel, and their product looks absolutely amazing. The Kickstarter ends on February 25th, so if you would like to help out our friends, please go check out the link in the description to support both us and them. Enjoy the video. We've all been there before, right? The story's getting intense, things are going wild, you're having a very important and critical story moment, and then one of the players asks to attack one of the other players. You see this PvP scenario starting right in front of you. As a DM, it can be really difficult to be able to figure out how to do these things. It can be difficult to be able to handle player versus player combat because it is just so inherently against the core identity of the game. The core identity of the game is collaborative storytelling, fighting different other monsters. So when you have two different players fight each other, it's a totally different ballgame. You're really risking creating an unhappy and unplayable atmosphere at your table. So as a dungeon master and as players, how do you handle PvP? Well, somebody who's gotten into PvP a few different times at my table, I think I have a pretty good idea of how to be able to handle this properly, and I'm going to be giving exactly one specific tip that I think is huge for any players. So let's talk about it. Why does player versus player combat happen? Well, there's a few different reasons. One is the petty reason. You attack another character because you're tired of the way that their character's been acting. Maybe they've been stealing things, they've been totally unfair. Maybe they're doing an action you just straight up don't agree with and you have to intervene. Maybe they're being a murder hobo and trying to attack the favorite NPC, and so you step in order to be able to prevent them from doing that, and thus combat erupts.
Hey, I'm not asking you because I'm gonna kick your ass if you did some fucked up shit, because I already know you did some fucked up shit.
There's a lot of different reasons it happens, but typically it's because of a disagreement. Now, there are a few reasons outside of this you might want to PvP, but I'm going to set down one specific rule that I think will save you a load of trouble when getting into PvP. When creating PvP, there needs to be a very specific rule set. You should only engage in PvP if it is your character who has a problem with their character. If it is because you as a player have a problem with them as a player, you should not engage in PvP. Do not allow emotions from outside of the game infect the game. It is a 100% scenario to create a problem. You don't want to create PvP because it is nothing for the story, but you're just upset at the player. That's not going to get anything done. And those scenarios should be handled outside of the game. But if it is because your character has a problem with their character and is realistic, all right, you've gotten past the first step. But has PvP been talked about before? Have your group come to the consensus that you're okay with PvP? In session 0, you talked about it, you went over it with each other, you thought, yeah, this is good, this is fun. Refer back to that. Refer back to the rules and ground rules that were set during that time, because it will do a ton to be able to help you in figuring out how to handle this. You also need to check in with your DM. Even just a simple looking at them and not saying, I attack this character, but saying, I would like to attack this character, will do a ton to be able to help you out in order to be able to decide how to handle the situation. See, because a lot of the times your DM will have insight on things. They're watching all of the characters. You're not. More than likely, you're pretty focused on your character and they're pretty focused on their character, but the DM's job is to focus on everybody. And so they'll be able to add some additional insight. So check in with your DM before actually engaging in the combat. And on the DM's point of things, there's a few different reasons of why you should or should not allow PvP combat. One, if you talked in session 0 and people are okay with it, that's great, that's awesome. But as a DM, here's a checklist to go through your head before making sure that you're okay with this happening in this session. Why is this happening? Why is the combat happening? Is it because of a miscommunication? More often than not, even if it is because the characters have issues with each other, if it's because of a miscommunication, it could lead to some conflict outside of the game. If one player is attacking the other because their character has misinformation, like say they think that they stole something that they didn't, it is more important in that point to clarify. Have them make rolls, have them make insight checks, or just outright tell them, hey, you may misunderstand this situation. But don't let them engage in combat over a misunderstanding, because it is very easy to bleed out into the actual world. 2, the other thing that you should make sure of, understand the players and the characters that are engaging with each other. Is this a scenario where it is easy for one of them to get their feelings hurt? There are a lot of players that constantly put a lot of emphasis on the strength of their character. And if you have two characters going head to head, it is very often that there will be a loser. And if one of the players does not want to be the loser, but that is still a possibility, it does create an air of unfortunate confusion and tension. So make sure that you're confirming that. And lastly, does your group care more about the story or mechanics? This is huge. If your group cares more about mechanics, do not let those players engage. Now, I'm sure that there are people who disagree with me, and that's totally fine, but from my point of view, if your group cares mostly about mechanics, engaging in PvP is one of the worst and game-breaking things that you can do. Because your players, they care about being the strongest, doing the best, being the most effective. And the moment that they engage with each other, the only thing they're going to care about is winning that combat, not creating a better story, which is not necessarily wrong. It is based off of the group over whether that's okay or not. But if that is what they're both caring about, they're going to go all out on each other, and they're going to try and take each other down, and one of them will inevitably be not having fun because they're losing, especially since D&D classes are not built to go against each other. A fighter versus a wizard is not going to end well. Even though the wizard objectively can be much more powerful at later levels, if the fighter's already on top of them and action surging them, in a single round of combat, they're probably not even going to get a chance to do anything. Or a monk. A monk is going to stun somebody to the point where they're never going to be able to act at all. The classes are not meant to go against each other, and if your party cares about mechanics and winning and being the strongest, one of them will be upset. It's very important to keep in mind that there are no winners when all anybody cares about is winning. It just creates one person who's happy for a time and one person who had no fun. And the point of D&D is for everybody to have fun. So when it comes to PvP, I really would recommend if your players care about winning or if they care more about being powerful, don't allow PvP. Set that expectation very clearly in session 0. But there's the other side of the story. What if your characters care about story? See, I mentioned before that I've been in PvP a few different times in my games, and I have. And it's because we care about the story. We care about the story a lot over the mechanics, and there's some people that will bash that playstyle. First of all, don't do that. Don't bash the playstyle. Even if you dislike it, other people will like it. But that being said, we care about the story a lot, and so PvP can lead to a lot of interesting story moments, because it is way more interesting to consider why two characters who are supposed to be on the same side have come to conflict. But you have to understand that the players have to talk to each other before this happens, or at least be able to talk to each other as it happens to make sure that everything's okay. And they have to understand what they're hoping to get out of it. And that really is the most important part. When I engaged in PvP, it was because my character had a horrible savior complex. She insisted that she must be able to interject herself into other people's lives in order to be able to make them face their demons. And so she did so against one of the single most traumatized characters in the party. Naturally, they came to blows and they fought against each other. However, me and the player had talked about this beforehand, and we understood that the baseline of why we wanted to do this and what we wanted to come out of it was we wanted her character to be able to learn, 1, where her anger can get her, and my character, 2, to learn maybe she shouldn't inject herself into other people's problems. And so, while we had this epic fight, of which my character could have very easily won if I tried to roll as high as I could and do everything I needed to, instead, her character ended up literally throwing mine through a tree. Awesome, fun, it was a very fun character moment. The two of them were very tense against each other and eventually came to be semi-friends. They were able to make up their differences, and it made a more interesting story because their relationship was able to evolve from there. Happened because we cared about the story. And that is the most important part. You have to make sure that it happens because you care about the story. And if your players like the story, then that is a place you can go. But PvP is such a very tense situation and something that D&D just isn't made for. There are too many things in the games that the classes can do which are unfair when pit against each other. So you have to consider that and make sure that everybody at your table is having fun. And that is the core baseline. And if you could do that, you should be able to run some pretty good games at your table. So go out into the world, make it your own, you beautiful bastards. Don't forget to have a great day, and never forget to play your role. A huge shout out to all those divine bastards over on our Patreon that helped make this video happen. I'd also like to take an additional very personal thank you to BKBW, Diet Blue, Duplicolor, Malcadil, I hope I pronounced that right, Sassy Cat Productions, Sorit, Supreme Court, Tin Eye, and Void Mystic. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without our patrons, and we are very thankful for your continued support. You guys are the absolute best, and I will never take your support for granted.